Have you ever heard that writing is 2% inspiration and 98% perspiration? What if I told you that writing could be 98% inspiration? Welcome to Intuitive Writer. I'm your host, Camille Chan. I'm here to show you how you can tap into inspiration and make it a part of your everyday writing practice. Say goodbye to those days of perspiring over the keyboard and hello to inspiration. Hello everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Intuitive Writer podcast. I'm your host, Camille Chan, and before we delve into this week's episode, I just wanted to take a brief moment and acknowledge what's going on out there in the world. I don't know about where all of you live, but here in Northern California, we've just entered another series of intense lockdowns for COVID, and we have a tourist-based economy up here. So it's very devastating to the restaurants and the wineries and the hotels. And my heart just goes out to everybody out there. I know everyone's facing different challenges, and I just want you to know that wherever you are and whatever you're going through, somebody from her little corner here in Northern California is sending you love and compassion and just wishing you all the best at this time of the year. I also wanted to give everybody an update on the Intuitive Writer Activation course. So the good news is I finished recording and editing the final modules over this past weekend. And let me tell you, it's been quite a journey. The learning curve has been very steep. Just all the recording, the editing, building a website, uploading all the materials. It's been a huge learning curve, but I have enjoyed every second of it, and I'm so excited to be able to share this material with you and to help everybody make intuitive writing a part of their writing process. So if you're interested in the course, I have a link to my newsletter below, and you can sign up. When the course is available for release, I'll be sending out a coupon for the course. So yeah, sign up for the newsletter. You'll get notified when it's released, and you'll also get a coupon. The next steps for the course are for me to run it through some beta testers. So I've reached out to my community of writing friends to see who might be willing to beta test the course for me. So I have quite a few friends that are going to be testing it out and giving me feedback because, of course, I want to bring you guys the very best. So like any writer, you always have to run your material through either your editor or your beta readers, and I'm treating this course just like I would treat one of my novels. I always get feedback from trusted people. So we're still a little ways out from release. I'm thinking it's probably going to be sometime in the spring because I want to give everybody who's testing it enough time to really work with the material. And of course, everybody's juggling busy schedules, so they have to squeeze it in to their calendars as well. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update, and yeah, go ahead and sign up for my newsletter to stay up to date on the release of the course and to make sure that you get your coupon. Now we're going to go ahead and delve into this week's episode. And this week's episode is all about energetic space management. So let's talk about what this is and why it's important. So the first thing to know is that as your intuitive muscle begins to grow and strengthen, you're going to be able to start detecting these energies that are stepping forward to co-create with you. And what's really happened for me is that I often feel the energy enter my body and then exit my body. When I sit down at the keyboard or I grab a pen and I physically channel these energies through and give them the life that they're asking for on the page, they will physically move through your body, into your body, and out of your body. And what this feels like, it really varies. Sometimes it feels like I'm expanded like a balloon, like with warm air, like a balloon. Sometimes it's itchy, sometimes it's tingly, sometimes it's just warm. But I mean, it doesn't hurt or anything. It's not invasive at all. Like I said, I can feel these energies when they're stepping forward and they're ready to create. They move into my body, and the best way for me to get them out is to channel them through and write them on the page. But one of the things that I've learned as I've worked with these energies is that I have a finite amount of space to hold them. And I I can't hold everything that's coming through all the time and all at once. And so as you begin to develop your intuitive muscle and tune into these energies and become aware of them, it's going to be really important for you to make decisions about what you're holding space for and what you're not. You really have to be in the driver's seat. A lot of times when these energies step forward, I like to describe them as the persistent child. So imagine here you are on the phone trying to make an airline reservation, and there's your kid poking you in the rib. Mom, 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 can I go play? Mom, mom, can I go eat M&Ms? Mom, 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 whatever it is, right? And then what happens is you get really frustrated, and then you, because the child is being so persistent, you throw all your energy at the child. Yes, you can go eat M&Ms. Just don't get sick, stuff like that. And that's how working with these energies can be. They can be so persistent that they get your attention and you focus on them because they're being loud. But in truth, you really have to be aware of what you're giving space to, and you don't always want to give space to the energy that's being the loudest. I spent many years as an unconscious creator, and what I did during that time is I had no energetic space management, and I did exactly what I'm talking about. I responded to whatever energy was the loudest. And to be honest, my writing career really languished because of this. Because there were so many things that were coming in and wanted expression, I didn't understand what was happening, and I didn't know how to handle it. And honestly, it's very Lord of the Flies, or at least that was my experience with it. And whatever was being the loudest and the most obnoxious is what would get my attention, and that's what I would work on. So let me give you an idea of what this looked like. In 2012, I published a young adult cyberpunk dystopia novel. It's a 7-book series with one short story, and I finally finished the series in 2018. But in that 6-year period, I also began an epic fantasy series. I began a zombie apocalypse series. I began a nonfiction writing series. And before all of this happened, I actually wrote 2 middle grade children's fantasy books. So when I talk about my career languishing, I was so unfocused, and I could only focus on the energy that was the loudest and the most persistent, and I couldn't finish anything because I was only focusing on the energy that was loudest. And honestly, I didn't do justice to myself, and I didn't do justice to the energies that wanted to come through. And when I talk about not doing justice to myself, I had and have really big goals about selling lots of books and building a really huge audience. But guess what? You can't build a huge audience if you don't finish series. You can't build a huge audience if you're jumping around all over the place. My readers that liked my middle grade books, they're not going to read my zombie books, or at least most of them aren't. The writers that or the readers that like my zombie books aren't necessarily going to read my epic fantasy books. So yes, I was very much an unconscious creator, and all these energies were coming in, demanding my attention, and I just responded to whatever was loudest. So that's really how it showed up for me. Perhaps if you are on that stage in your development where you consider yourself an unconscious creator, you might not even hear what's coming through. There might be all this stuff circling around you, and you might not even be in tune to it. So there's a lot of reasons to build your awareness, build your intuitive muscle, and really learn how to be, what's the word I'm looking for? How to really be proactive. That's the word. How to be proactive about how you are managing this energetic space. And you guys, I spent a decade writing books like this, so don't be like me. Listen to these podcasts, take my course when it comes out, and really learn how to refine your skills and how to communicate with the universe. The other thing I wanted to mention about this period in my writing life is, in all honesty, I wasn't doing justice to the works and the characters that were coming to me. Again, I had trouble finishing things because I was always off chasing something new. And, you know, when these stories come to you, they do want to be finished. I still haven't finished the epic fantasy series that I started, and I still feel the characters coming in once in a while. And it's something that I know that, you know, I made that commitment and I do need to finish it one of these days. But yeah, when you are just responding blindly to these energies, you're not doing justice to yourself, and you're not doing justice to these energies that want to co-create with you. They deserve your full focus and your full attention and your commitment, and you deserve your commitment and your focus. Now that I have really made it a point to refine my intuitive writing practice and, you know, to use it every single day in my life, I am very consciously managing my energetic space and what I'm letting in and what I'm not letting in. So I wanted to give you some examples. There's 5 main ways that you can work with these energies and maintain your space and be proactive in the management of your space. So I wanted to go through these 5 techniques and then give you some examples of what they look like. So the first thing to do whenever a new energy comes to you, you always want to acknowledge it. I always say, thank you so much. I see you, I hear you, I feel you, and, you know, send you so much gratitude. Thank you so much for being here. So you always want to acknowledge these things in the universe that come to you, because it's really a gift that they're stepping forward and that they want to co-create with you. So always acknowledge them. And then when they do show up, you have a variety of ways that you can manage them. And number 1, this is the easiest one, when they show up, you can roll out the welcome mat. If you don't have another big project that you're in the middle of, you know, if you're not in the middle of a series, or perhaps what's coming forward is that next insight that you needed into your current book or your current character, roll out the welcome mat. Let them in, you know. Set aside the time and find the space where you can really connect, meditate, bring them in, grab your journal, bring them in, whatever works best for you. So that's the easiest. Number 1, roll out the welcome mat. Now we're going to get into a little more of the nitty gritty. So the second way that you can deal with these energies, I call this technique, hold the phone. And this is when the energies that are showing up are super persistent, but the time isn't really the best for you because, hey, we all live in the real world, right? We have jobs, we have commitments. I mean, just last week I had a dear friend call and she's like, oh my God, I'm downloading the next part of my story, but I have meetings with clients all day today. So that is a perfect example where you can just say, hey, universe, hold the phone. I love you. Thank you so much for being here, but I don't have the space right now to bring you in. And that is absolutely okay. I had this happen to me just last week, and it's actually this podcast episode. This podcast episode came through so strongly, and it was so loud, and it wanted all of my attention. And over the weekend, I was in the middle of recording the last 2 modules for the Intuitive Writer Activation Workshop. And so it came in and it was so loud, and what happened was it was so loud and so persistent that it was starting to shove out the information that I had brought in for the modules. So this is what I'm talking about with finite space. And when I did my first recording that weekend, it was terrible because, you know, I had this podcast episode coming in, and I couldn't focus on the 2 energies. So I finally had to say, look, I hear you, I see you, but you need to hold on. I am in the middle of something. This has been in the works for a while, and it's super important. And if you guys listened to last week's episode, The Art of Asking, I talked about how I have been asking for a lot of help with the podcast and asking for the material that wants to come through. So yes, it has been coming through hard and heavy, and it showed up and it was ready to work. But again, I had to say, look, hold the phone. I had the stuff in me already. I need to bring it in. Once I bring it in, once I'm done, I'm all yours. And when you have an instance like this where you do need to ask the universe to hold the phone, make sure that you hold up your end of the deal. So if you say, hey, 2 days from now, I'm going to have all these modules recorded. I'm going to have tons of space. I'm going to bring you in. Well, make sure you hold up that end of the deal. I use the hold the phone technique for things that are immediate. So for information and creative stuff that's coming in that I need right now. For example, I needed the podcast episode right now because here I am recording. Or if there's a scene or the character's telling you something for the next part of your book, and you do need it immediately. So that's how I use this technique, is for stuff that I need right away that's coming in. There's another technique, this is number 3, and I call this cut a deal. And this is for stuff that you don't necessarily need immediately, but you still want to honor it for coming in. So let me give you an example of how I cut deals with these energies. In my zombie series, Undead Ultra, I have a very minor character named Sharkbait, and I love him to death. He's hilarious. He got bitten by a shark in a zombie apocalypse, and I find this hilarious. But I don't know what that says about me, but there you go. So anyway, he came in book 3, and I only ever meant for him to be a minor character. But let me tell you what, this guy he wanted to be a part of everything. And sometimes I do see my characters, and Sharkbait is one that I absolutely saw very, very easily. He doesn't look the way I describe him in the books, but the way he shows himself to me is a very large, stocky, powerful man with red hair and a red mustache, and he takes up physical space and energetic space. So what would happen is every time I had a scene with Sharkbait, he tried to take over the scene. So all of a sudden he'd flow through my fingertips and he's running the scene, and I'm like, dude, this isn't your story. What are you doing? So it was really funny. So this happened a couple of times, and finally I was like, okay, you clearly have a story that you want to tell, and if you could just give me a little space. There's already somebody running the show. It's a different character, but I promise you I will give you your own book in the future. I have this spin-off series planned, and I promise you're going to have a book. And so he was good with that. So I have Sharkbait hanging out there. It's probably going to be a few years before I get to his story. But anyway, so we cut this deal, and that's how it works. Another example of cutting a deal is I was in another similar situation. I was working on book 3 in Undead Ultra, and a new series came through, or the concept for a new series, and that's the one I'm actually writing now, Zombiness Invasion. And it came through so loud and so big, and it wanted my attention all the time, and it was really rattling around. But I knew I had to finish book 3 in Undead Ultra, and I knew there was a 4th book, so I had a lot of stuff that I had to bring in. And I've really made a commitment not to jump around and just listen to these things that are just being really loud. And, the old Camille, the unconscious creator, would have absolutely pushed book 3 aside in Undead Ultra and started this new series. But the new Camille said, okay, I see you, I hear you, I am so excited by this idea, and I am totally your girl. I am going to do this. I'm going to rock this series, but you have to wait. You have to wait. I have another book and a half to write, and that's just the way it is. So you just have to wait. And it did. I mean, it was very impatiently waiting, and I could actually see the energy of the story quite often. It would show itself to me as a giant, almost like a tsunami wave, all made of stone, and it was just ready to crash and go everywhere and make a big impact. and it would chatter at me in my head, and I'd have to remind it, look, we cut a deal. You need to just hold off, stay where you are, and let me finish what I'm doing. So yeah, you can absolutely do that as well. You know, acknowledge whatever's coming in, but just let it know, look, I can't bring you in right now, but I'm your writer, I'm your one, so just give me a little bit of time, because, you know, I have to work and take care of my family and all this other stuff. There's all this, you know, silly mortal stuff that we have to do. As much as we'd love to be creating 24/7, we can't function in the physical world that way. So that's option number 3 for energetic space management. Now, option number 4, if you're married, you might get a kick out of this, but option number 4 is compromise. And we all know what compromise is, right? Compromise means you get to go pick up the dog shit and I get to go clean the litter box. And nobody's really happy about it, but you know, the stuff gets done. So that's compromise. And how this works when you're dealing with energies that you're co-creating with is sometimes you just have to give a little more than maybe you want to at that moment, but the energy also has to give a little bit in that it doesn't get to be front and center right now. And I had this happen again. This is with the podcast when I tried the hold the phone technique, and it did work for maybe 5 or 6 hours, but then it was back. And it came back when I was trying to sleep, and it was rattling in my head, and all this stuff was downloading and dumping into my head, and I couldn't sleep. And it was around midnight, and so finally I was like, okay, I will get up and I will outline everything that you're telling me, but then you have to back off and you have to let me finish these recordings. I really can't make space for you right now, but Monday, just wait till Monday and I'm your girl. So that's what I did. I got up, grabbed some scratch paper, and I ended up taking 5 pages of notes in my bed. It took me about an hour. So again, this was a compromise because I really wanted to sleep. And this podcast episode wanted all of my attention and all of my focus, but it couldn't have it right. It couldn't have it right because I was still recording and working on the course modules. So we reached this little compromise in the middle of the night where it got my attention for a short period of time. I brought through the main points that wanted to be shared, and then I got to go to sleep, and it got to back off a little bit because it knew that I was going to come back to it. So compromise, that is option number 4 for your energetic space management. Now we are on to option number 5. So this is your last option, and you can pass. When something comes in and wants to co-create with you, if it doesn't fit in your vision or you're just not jiving with it for whatever reason, it is totally okay to just say, thank you so much. Thank you so much for picking me, but I'm just gonna have to pass. Please go find some other beautiful soul in the universe to bring you in because I'm not your girl or I'm not your guy. Probably about 6 months ago, I had a story arc and an idea. It showed up in my dreams, and it was for an epic fantasy with an Asian theme, it's definitely one of my things that I love. So I was a good pick for it, but I have so many zombie stories stacked up that I have committed to, waiting in the wings. I have several years of writing in front of me. Plus, I'm really committed to building my author brand at the moment as a zombie apocalypse writer. So this story that came in, it didn't fit. And so I had to let it go, lovingly let it go. And that is totally okay. I've had other things paying in and out recently as well that I've just had to say, okay, I can't give my focus to that. I just can't. And then you let it go. And that is totally okay. You are in the driver's seat. You know, you're driving the train. Of course, once you do make a commitment, it is important to honor it. But, you know, when these things initially show up, you do have the option to pass. So don't forget that. So let's briefly recap everything that we've talked about. What we are really delving into today was energetic space management. And this is because you are a finite being and you can't always hold and pay attention to all the energies that want to co-create with you and that are demanding your attention. So it's super important to be aware of them and to pick and choose what you're giving space to in any given time. And we talked about 5 different techniques for proactively managing your energetic space. And number 1 was roll out the welcome mat. Number 2 was hold the phone, and this is for energies that are more imperative to what you're doing right now. Technique number 3 is cut a deal, and this is for things that really want to come through, but they're not super important to your current projection, and maybe it's going to be something you're bringing in quite a ways in the future. Tip number 4 was compromise. Not always everybody's favorite, but yeah, there it is. Compromise. And tip number 5 is you can lovingly pass. So I hope that you have found this information useful, and as you look at yourself as a creator and think back to a lot of your creative experiences, I would not be surprised if you don't look at your own experiences and find similarities to what I'm talking about. Because I truly believe that all writers and creative people out there are very much in tune to these energies that want to co-create with them, but there's just not a lot of awareness or consciousness around it. So that's really the message that I'm trying to bring. I'm trying to help everybody become conscious creators and to have these conscious partnerships with these energies that want to co-create with you. If you have found this episode interesting or useful, I would very much appreciate it if you would share it on your social media, share it with your writing buddies, really help me spread the word. I would really, really appreciate it. And you can find my weekly show on both YouTube and on all major podcast platforms. And of course, I would appreciate if you subscribed to on whatever your favorite platform is. I would appreciate it. And you can reach out to me anytime on Instagram. You can DM me at Write with Intuition. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear if this resonates. I'd love to hear about your experiences as a creator and how intuition has played a role in your creative life. And I will be back next week, probably with the last episode of 2020. I am actually starting to shift my energy, and I am starting to bring in book number 3 in my current series. So now that I've finished recording the intuitive writing course, I am going to be shifting my energy back into writing, and I'm super excited. So I might take a week off from podcasting for a week. All right, guys, I will talk to everyone soon. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.